Welcome. We're going to take a quick look at Batsa acupuncture and how it can be very useful in identifying the critical time periods in a patient's life. So here we have a patient birth chart. This is a long time, well-known patient, and we can see that the patient was born on a wood day, a yin wood day. The patient was born in a yin metal year, a yang metal month, and a yin metal hour. When we look at the elemental distribution, we find the chart is heavier in wood and metal than anything else, and we find water is really the weakest element there. The important part to note in this case, the yin wood is rather surrounded by metal, and it is surrounded by a lot of yin metal. So wood and metal in five-element theory have a control relationship, and the control relationship can be helpful, right? The control element keeps the other element in check, sort of. But as we know, if there's too much, it can be unhealthy. And in this case, it's not just that there's a lot of metal, because there's not more metal than wood, but it is the presence of the yin metal with the yin wood that's important. And when stems have the same polarity, they're both yin or they're both yang, the situation is usually difficult, as opposed to when you have a yin stem and a yang stem in a control relation, it comes out much better. So yin wood can be helped by yang metal, but yin wood can be really hurt by yin metal. So we can look at 10 years ago, January 2012. And when we look at the top graphic, we see that it was a yin metal year, it was a yin metal month, and a yin metal day. So all that yin metal lining up against a yin wood person. When we look at the element distribution, we do see that metal and wood are pretty even, and water is really weak. The important part, though, is that it's all yin metal, and it's a yin wood individual, so we will not expect a good outcome. Turns out on this day, the patient had the onset of a rather serious illness that they recovered from in about the course of a month or so. But from that illness, they developed a secondary condition, and that secondary condition has lasted 10 years now. It's ongoing. It's been rather problematic for the patient. The water dragon year started at the beginning of February 2012, about a month after this day. And if we remember the patient's chart was weak in water, we might expect that that would have been an improvement time for the patient. However, it was not. It actually made the patient's condition worse. During the seminar, we'll discuss why that was. Important thing to take away here, during that water dragon year, after this health event that the patient suffered, the ongoing problem was really around fluid metabolism and the ears. And what goes with the water element, fluid metabolism, and the ears are the sense organ. We can fast forward 10 years to January 2022. And if we look at the top graphic, we see that this is a yin metal cow year, which started actually in early February of 2021. The patient at that time was advised that they may have another health crisis this year, that there would be another time period when all of that yin metal would get really strong again. And so the patient listened. The patient changed their diet and their lifestyle. They lost weight. They took herbs to support the liver and kidney, and throughout the course of the year really tried to do what they could. However, things happen. And about a month before this day, a little more than a month, the patient suffered a rather significant viral infection. In the following weeks during recovery, through no fault of their own, the patient suffered a traumatic injury, which required some rather heavy medication, and that further weakened the patient's system. So coming then up to this day, where we have the yin metal year, month, and day, the patient knew it was coming, but at that time there wasn't much they could do. Things had already happened. Well, this happens to also be a snake day and a snake hour. And if we remember back to the patient's chart, they were year of the pig and month of the tiger, snake fights with both of those branches, so we've got a double stem branch fighting here during this time period. And what happened? Well, the patient did have a rather significant health event. They had serious visual disturbance, neurological impairment during the 2-hour period of the snake on this day, in this month, in this year. Fortunately, when the hour changed, the following hour was wood horse, these symptoms subsided somewhat out of the severe category, more into just the serious category, and now the patient actually is more or less recovered from that situation. If the patient hadn't taken the precautions throughout the year, it is most likely that that would have wound up being a very, very serious situation and probably started another long-term severe critical problem for the patient. But that didn't happen because they knew and they did what they could ahead of time to prepare. And if we look at the element distribution for this time period when it happened, we see very heavy metal and heavy earth. We see pretty much no wood and very little water. The nature of the patient's symptoms at the time of the health event, the visual disturbance, that goes with the wood element, with the liver gallbladder system. There's no wood available to help the patient. And the neurological goes with both the water and the wood. Water is very low, and again, no wood to help the patient. So, fortunately, this patient will not have to be worried about the yin metal components so much for another 10 years, because the yearly cycle for the heavenly stems is 10 years. And they made it through this time period because they were prepared. So, thank you, and see you in class.